how to cope in the past and stay focused and remain on top of training when life gets busy, child, work, relationships, and stuff. So, yeah, you obviously you haven't had a child yet, Paul, but you know what it's like.
A job
but you know what it's like to be busy and whatnot. Like, how do you keep focused and like keep juggling? So every aspect of your life, you feel like you're being relatively successful in terms of you getting better at everything. Like
the biggest thing with this, I can say, just prioritize. I'm not going to sit and pretend I've had loads of stuff to deal with at once, because training's always been a big priority of mine. But prioritize and have a plan. The less busy you are, the less you really need a plan, because you can just wing your way through it and you'll figure it out. But if you're really busy, I need a routine. I'm doing this on this day. You might train twice a week, but at this time for 90 minutes, I'm training twice a week. So I think it's just prior planning, and the more things you have going on, you need to prioritize them in what order and how much time each is going to get, and then you're going to say, right, this time is going in there and this time is going in there. Guys that I know that have been really busy and been successful, they're on the ball. Every hour's accounted for in the day, and it can be quite tough, obviously, but you need to plan first, because if you start thinking, oh, am I doing this, shall I do that, so you've kind of lost before you've even started. So the more stuff you have, really just get a kind of a diary, a plan, a schedule, and make sure you stick to it and think about it. And I had a good one, a mate of mine who was doing his PhD, and he used to train early, get it in while he was fresh, and then he'd be working all day lecturing, doing his PhD, and he'd be knackered by the end of the day. But then he realised, well, I like training. Even if I feel dead and my mind's blown, I look forward to training. So he started coming in early, doing his work really early, and he had training to look forward to, because he's going to enjoy training. No matter how dead he is, it will get him up for it. So he found switching around and training at the end of the day, when physically he was more tired, but mentally he was a bit fresher for it, because he'd been looking forward to it. Kind of carried him through on his really busy spells.
Brilliant. So I find on this that having a growth mindset, and even if you don't have a growth mindset, working towards developing a growth mindset in terms of, like, say, fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So you have people who are like, well, I can't be organized. Like you said about the importance of being organized, for instance. Yeah. People are like, oh, I'm just disorganized, and they put themselves into that box.
Like saying I'm weak.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas somebody with a growth mindset will say that maybe I find it challenging to be organized, but blah 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 blah, and they'll have a way, like they'll have a plan to like building towards a solution. So for me, like I've always struggled with being punctual, being organized, like. I struggle with like remembering things, whereas like people like who know me like within the last couple of years, like some people would actually say that I am punctual, I am organized, like I'm structured with a lot of things, and it's something that in order to be successful within the different contexts, so here, so say like with training, work, being a dad, being supportive to my partner and stuff, like being relatively successful and getting a little bit better with all of these consistently, that's something that I have had to take the bull by the horns and actually get better at. And actually, you know, like say employing systems, like it sounds crazy, but like using the calendar on my phone to schedule things in, using notes on my phone for everything, like even the way that I communicate with people, like say even the way that I communicate with clients and stuff, like say I'll chat, like if I see people in person, I'll have a chat with, like say we'll chat about stuff, but if there's anything like that's really pressing or really important, I'll always say, look, just email me or send me a message on whatever. So then I've got a record of this. So then
you're not trying to remember it and
exactly. This is a key. So actually, instead of like taking that kind of that negative mindset of like, oh well, I don't have a good memory, it's actually changing, like creating systems and putting systems in place within your context. So I actually don't use my memory. So I don't rely on it because I don't need to, because I'm like, well, why would I stress or give myself the anxiety of trying to remember to meet you? you know, like a bit like you scheduling this and like saying, right, well, tell me a time, Paul, and I'll work around that. You know, rather than
it's on a message too, isn't it? So you can read it.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
it.
What they say to me.
And like so I don't even try and remember that. I just know that I'm in my Paul. What time am I in my Paul? And it's kind of scheduled in, and even so much as like how I've done that with training, for instance. Like instead of, I think this, I can remember the reason why I train on the days that I do. I train Monday and Friday 4 o'clock. Right, because when I started training Strongman and training with Paddy and Hicksy, they were saying like, when do you want to train or whatever? And they said, right, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 till 6. Work, 4 till 6 was what Hicksy wanted. So I committed to that. And that's what I do. That's what I do. So I've trained like every Monday for like missed when I've been abroad and stuff, but like every Monday, every Friday when I'm here, like it's just like clockwork. And the point is when you schedule something like that and put the systems in place, like I would actually say that most of the time that I train, because like I'll work before, I'll do have like other stuff scheduled in that of course like goes over sometimes. Like most of the time, I would say like over 50% of the time when I go to train, it's not the convenient thing to do. And it's like I've had to peel myself away from something that maybe if I wasn't so committed to being an athlete and whatever, that maybe like very often time, like the other stuff is probably a bit more important.
Yeah.
Like very often.
Picture,
But in terms of like the goals that I've set as an athlete and it is a juggling act, like taking in the say being an athlete, being a coach and running a business, running a relationship, but like making a relationship work and like bringing up a child. They're like my 4 pillars personally, and I feel like a lot of people have that in common. But yeah, that's all that I care about. And getting a little bit better at all of those things each week, and it is a juggling act. But I find that having the systems in, taking ownership,
that's the biggest thing.
That's the biggest thing. And like say if you and Shannon you like disagree on something or whatever, like you have to come to it might not be immediate, but you have to come to a resolution because you know that if you don't resolve that, then it's going to affect training. It's going to affect your work. So it's actually, so there might be times where you're hitting an important training week, but actually, you still turn up for your sessions, but actually the goal of that training week might actually be to fix that relationship or fix that issue or whatever that feeds into the other stuff.
I remember training once after an exam, and obviously a few exams at once, and I went into training, and I couldn't do anything because I couldn't compartmentalize it, like leave that there and then go and train, even though I thought I'd be fine. And literally, I was so weak, I was terrible. I just couldn't switch off. Where it's something I got better at, where it's like, right, training for these 2 hours, I'll worry about anything else after that. COVID was a good one because probably like most coaches, was absolutely my revenue just suddenly making no money because all my clients had left. So I had to go and train for 2 hours, not think about that, train. Then I'll worry about that after. But worrying about it while I'm in between sets of squats was not going to do anything positive. So just switching off.
Dangerous.
Exactly.
Dangerous.
So it was like, right, I'm training now. I'll worry about what I'm going to do after that.
So again, and these are the kind of skills, like you're saying about compartmentalisation. Like this is the kind of thing that you need to take ownership of and have like an open mindset with, because this is the kind of thing that people very often say, "Oh, I can't do that." It's not something that is innate. It's something that you develop, isn't it? It's a skill.
Yeah.
Like you actually get better at that. Like logically, you look at, right, well, if I want to get better at this and this, is it going to be beneficial if I do a little bit of both and they cross over a little bit? Or is it going to be better if I give that the most attention for that little block and then completely switch into the other, which is going to give the greatest net positive?
Yeah.
And it's most of the time it's going to be, like you say, compartmentalising.
Yeah.
So if you agree with that logically, then it's about creating systems what can achieve this. So again, this might be too simple and not cool enough
to actually implement
for people to
because
implement.
most things people just won't do it because it seems too easy.
But just getting a calendar, and I think like just going back to the thing that I said before about me kind of like say like going heavy all the time, whatever. Like recently I've hit my kind of peak of won a competition that I enjoyed 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then since then I've like backed off, and found it it's weird when you're in the stresses of like when you're in like that, you got the kind of you're prepping for a comp or whatever. It's almost easy to not, like I've got right, I know I need to hit these sets and reps, blah 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 blah. So I need to be there for that time to warm up, to be back home for tea, to do that. So I need that window. Whereas that thing that I found a little bit more challenging is like transitioning into the lighter block, what we said, and then almost like having a bit more freedom. So it'd be like, oh, it don't matter if I'll be 15 minutes late, and then it'll be fine. And then
that's what I ended up with today, so a bit late, and I thought, but I don't mind doing it on these blocks, especially early on, because it's like, right, I'll push the pace and I'll get through everything really quick.
Yeah.
And I'll get a bit of conditioning thingy. But yeah, it's completely different to comp prep when it's like I need 2.5 hours or 3 hours, whatever it is. These sessions, they'll be a bit more, well, let me challenge myself, see if I can do 2-minute rest for the whole sets, the whole session. So yeah, but it is easy to drop the ball, isn't it? But I think if you can get that mental break of not quite having to be as strict for a little period of time, it's really beneficial. So you can kind of have a bit of a mental deload, if you like, as much as a physical one.
But I think changing the goalposts within that can be beneficial, because the going against what you just said, like the thing that I've had to manage is like, right, well, I'm doing this phase where I'm going lighter, and I'm kind of confusing doing the lighter phase with not being quite as important. So these other things, what I've said about these like kind of balancing act, these other things, actually I found myself doing more work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To the point where my training's been compromised. So a thing that's helped me recently, instead of being like so anal about the sets and reps, what I've said, I'll say, right, well, I can be a little bit later, or I can finish a little bit later, but I've got to turn up, and on my Monday session, I've got to do 2 hours. It doesn't have to be. I'm just turning up and I'm engaged for 2 hours without looking at emails and social media and stuff. Just 2 hours of work. So then, since I've done that, I've realised that, oh bloody hell, if I let myself like be late to turn up to the session, then I can't have my tea till 20 to 8. Instead of being home for 6:45. And so that's made me more accountable to being better at the other stuff. Is that like timed window, even though within that it's like there's less pressure in what I'm actually doing.
Yeah, I get you. I actually think that's the point you make about being as important. For me, in kind of the off-season block, I'm a bit more worried about missing a session. Like I won't miss a session for this, I think it's 6-7 weeks at all. I won't do it. Whereas if I'm in a comp prep and I wake up and I'm dead one day, I'm aware that I might have just overdone it. I'll miss. I don't mind. I'll skip one. I'll do a bit more recovery work, and I'll not push too hard to then have a kind of domino effect. I'll just take a day. Whereas in blocks where I'm going lighter, I know if I don't want to do it, just because I'm being soft, rather than any real fatigue that's stopping me. So it is getting that importance of the lighter stuff isn't necessarily less important, and not just thinking because it's an easy session, it's one I can sack off.